Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody. I'm Milan, and this is my co-host Andrew, JJ, and Colter. And today we're going to talk about the spiritual principle of the day, discerning when to act. You want to say what that means to you, Andrew, and start us off?
Yeah. Wow. When we read the spiritual principle just a little while ago, Milan, and that first word came out, discernment. Man, that's a really special word to me. A lot of layers to it, right? A lot goes into that. Being able to have that spiritual principle. A lot of people don't know what that means. It's the ability to judge well, right? Having that ability to judge well in a specific situation. And then I'll read a couple other, the perception in the absence of judgment with a view of obtaining spiritual guidance and understanding, right? And then without providing for a time of healing and discernment, there will be no hope of living through this present moment without a shattering to our common life, right? So discernment is everything, right? Like if you're going to go left instead of right, what's going to make you go left instead of right, right? And there's a lot of maintenance that goes into being able to naturally come to a decision that is best for you, is best for your family, is best for everybody involved. And if you can hear a dog, I'm sorry, we're a dog friendly podcast here. So so being able to have that in my life is so important. It was one of the first things that my sponsor had me look up that word and do like a paper, but he wanted me to write up something about it. And I didn't know why. It kind of seemed silly at the beginning, but it's something that I do with my sponsees now, man. It's one of the first couple of things that I do. I have them look that word up because you want to at least know what it is, even if you don't have it or don't know what it is. Having that word in your vocabulary, that alone makes you rethink certain things as you start living more in that spiritual principle lane, right? We start living spiritually. That discernment piece comes as we work a lot of those other things that we talk about, the open-mindedness and staying willing and honesty and all that stuff. And so the ability to judge well, man, right? Like that's almost everything at that moment, right? In the moment, being able to judge well or pause, how's this going to affect me going forward is what we're training to do here, right? Is being able to discern in every situation how we need to act going forward. And how's that going to help me? How's it going to help the group? How's that going to affect anything that's specific to that situation? So that just kind of opens up that broader discussion of it. So discernment, very important, man.
Awesome, Andrew. And you want to speak on it next there, JJ?
Well, I looked it up here. To discern, to perceive or recognize something. Then the second definition is to distinguish someone or something with difficulty by sight or with other senses. And I really dig that because it implies it may not be so easy, right? Discerning says having or showing good judgment. So, I remember when I first entertained that word discernment, and I was pursuing my spiritual life. And, it definitely seemed something that I needed to employ, to really, and I can't do it without involving my higher power. It's like, that's when I sort of expose my desire to want to make a freaking decision and go ahead anyway, right? And so discernment suggests that maybe my judgment isn't the best. And for crying out loud, if I look in the rearview mirror, before coming to this program, there's every reason for me to develop the ability to pay attention and learn what I need to learn. And in the reading, it surely talked about our step process, and I'm so grateful for it. And it never stops giving. Um, this, I'm doing my third step again in the step guides. And the questions that it asks today, it asked me 20 years ago, but it means something totally different, my self-will, and separating my will from God's will, or really more importantly, combining the two. And then I come up with a discerning decision, one that people will benefit from. So it's a real journey, man. I still suck at, I can suggest and I can help take care of you, but by evidence of my most recent adventure, I suck at taking care.
Man lives on his program right there. He lives on his program right there, man. Love that guy.
No, and again, if we pay attention, I mean, God's given me the freaking grace and the opportunity to now do this because, I used to hurt everybody around me. And the last, 3 decades have been a process of really being helpful and making sure that if I do nothing else, it set a stage for somebody's success. And sometimes the inability to discern when to fold them, right? Again, that's a matter of me hurting myself. The other person is sort of not even counting. Then it's a matter of me learning how to love what God gave me, which is my life. So it's a real process. We're taught through our service to consider those other than ourselves. But there's a bigger message behind it, is to learn how to take care. There's not a person that got in these freaking rooms with a clue on how to take care of themselves, how to be loving and caring and let that emanate to others. So, typically I'm go through this shit backwards. But I'm just really grateful to be here. Colter, I had 4-way bypass surgery just the day before Christmas Eve. Before I came home.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah. So, this is icing on the cake. Like, very easily the Sunday before, I could have been just took out and removed from this podcast.
Scary, man. It's scary.
No, you made a commitment to come once a month. Now, come hell or hot water, whether I got to drag you out of the coffin, JJ, I'm coming for you.
I said, I can't go.
A commitment's a commitment.
We got people in Canada. We got people in the U.S. You ain't going nowhere, bro.
Yeah. Well, and who honored that was the higher power. Because this prick, I care about you guys. I'm worried.
As soon as you make plans, God's going to knock the shit out of you and be like, bro, I ain't going on vacation. I ain't going on vacation. What are you doing? I didn't give you the reins. You're not the babysitter today. I got this.
Yeah.
It's funny.
No, it's the gifts, man. The gift.
Colton? Colton? Love you, bro.
So, man, this is like one of those overwhelming clusterfucks for me, dude. Because like, there's so much to like discern, right? Like, there's good from bad, and right from wrong, and possible from impossible, necessary from unnecessary, futile or not, right? And on and on and on. And these are the things that, I think the turning it over is supposed to help with, right? Because like my brain by default always thinks that it's my job to figure out all of it, everything, period. And the problem is, dude, like especially at this age, I'm coming to learn very, very quickly that in a given day, I have a very limited amount of a shit that I can give about anything, right? Like I don't have the ability to endlessly like just put myself, my energy, my love, my heart into everything. You know, if I did, it would be easy, but I don't. You know, so discerning what's important and what's not, right? Like that's becoming increasingly important in my opinion for me and my journey in life and recovery because like it's like they say, right? Like keeping it simple is helping me because I tend to take it all on at once and then I get overwhelmed and then I just shut down. And that's not useful, right? Um, so, you know, for me, it's the little things. Like it's why like Milan is invaluable to me because often like I feel like I can discern anything and I damn sure can't tell if it's coming from God, myself, or my insanity, like at times, right? And like sometimes I just need that little compass, like, dude, just do this. And I can do that, right? I have like the simple like North Star routines. Like I go to the meeting every day. Like, you know what I mean? Like if I think someone says something that I think I can be helpful with, I reach out to that person. Like if someone says something where I think they can be helpful to me, I reach out to that person, right? Like little things like this, you know, that I can manage. And I do those things to the best of my ability. And for me, that's you know, that's where I'm at right now with it.
Awesome.
Love that.
Thanks, Colter.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, discerning when to act. This has kind of been a real theme the last week of you know, every single point of me even being able to understand anything comes with my awareness. And it's like that meditation I was talking about with the reflection. And it's like if there's shit going on, be it resentments, be it me trapped in the past, be it anxiety, it makes my water cloudy. And if my water's cloudy, I don't even see what I'm trying to discern clearly.
Right.
And then I'm like reflecting that turbidity to the world in bad decisions, and like we can learn where we use our energy to make a difference and where we need to let go. And, I find quite often for myself is that I'm hanging on to bad decisions because they were a previous opinion. Like I'm stuck doing things over and over only because I once held that position and opinion on something that I don't even stand behind anymore. Even just, good examples like having this conflict with my wife the other day, and I'm like, why can't I give you the benefit of the doubt, even when I see that I'm not, you know? And I like how they kind of tie this into the serenity prayer because, the acceptance, of course, is really why I like how they tie it into the serenity prayer and it being about, because I'm all about acceptance, like as far as it goes, that's my life journey. But, the courage, the courage to change what I can. And that's really what I feel like is my life inside this program and the steps. It's the courage to throw out all my old shit and just say that wasn't serving my life, your life, anybody's life, and struggle for the bit by bit by bit by bit change, And then, gosh, and I certainly haven't had the wisdom before in my life, and now at least my water's starting to clarify, or I feel like I'm starting to get a little bit of the message, even if it's like takes my puddle a little bit while for the drips to stop making waves. Yeah, and I think that's where I'm at with that. Andrew, do you got a first question?
I do. So, kind of tied in with the meaning of this whole thing. So, I'll start off with who we starting off with? We'll
JJ.
start off
You're
with
going to
JJ. You
JJ,
wanna go
then
around?
Colter,
Yep.
then
All
me.
right, so we'll go to JJ first. So can you recall a time in your recent recovery here, because you're an OG, of course, that you had to that something came like a conflict came to your plate, and you really had to step back and provide a time of healing and discernment, right? You had to really take some time away from that individual. And then how did you tackle that situation, right? Was it, because I've heard that complete silence is an answer, right? No is an answer. There's ways to handle certain situations. Can you kind of provide us with an example that you can think of, where you really had to, like, you couldn't address it right then. You had to make a conscious effort to say, look, I need to back away. And then you came back to it, or maybe didn't. And how did you address it? How did you get over that?
There's two situations that come to mind, and it's all about the ability to change, the courage to change, as Milan sort of referred to. And one is dealing with my ex-wife, my second wife. Someone that I really, really, I still love her a lot. And she's the potentials of her. She's an amazing woman. I see it and she doesn't. And I spent, 15 or 16 years um, trying to convince her of what an amazing person she is. And that's just not my job. And so in my interactions with her now, I really have to, it's a real challenge, because I'm aware that I could just drop the rock and not have any communication whatsoever. And I don't feel good about that. It's a matter of staying accessible. And she and Tracy met in the freaking operating room for the first time.
JJ.
For the first time, they met again.
That's beautiful.
Miss God's role in my life, because I knew that this departure was going to come to where she would have to realize we're not getting back together again, right? I've said it, but I know in her heart she's still. So at the anticipated meeting, right, of my recent relationship and my ex-wife happened in the room, in the pre-op room. They met together, and
Were
it's like,
you conscious or were you unconscious?
oh, I was fully conscious. This was
Okay. Well, I'm
yeah.
just asking.
Unfortunately. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No. Like, it's like all the anticipated anxiety.
So awesome.
All the anticipated anxiety. It's like, again, man, we should be grateful in all things, not for all things, but inside it. If we can freaking put our shit down and take a look. I mean, it was so incredibly orchestrated. Trey got there in the morning because she works, at night. My daughter got there an hour later, and Monica got there an hour later. And and it's like, I'm going into freaking quadruple bypass surgery.
Oh my God.
The reason that any of us are in this room is
Crazy.
it's because of the love. It's the love, right? That's the reason that we're all here. My daughter, Tracy, Mommy loves me. It was about the love, man. So there was no time for any bullshit. And it was
Nice.
and they met, and they had their interactions, and whatever, shit that we go through.
Oh man.
Emotionally, man, it was so fucking amazing.
No time for that shit.
God, so that's my relationship with her, supporting her, but then also telling her that it's time to move on, and yet I'm not abandoning her, right? Like, I've been there all along, and I still am, and I want to see nothing but good things in her life. That's all I ever wanted, So it really is. It's because the track record is that I can't fix her, I can't take care of her, but I can support her, right? And so there's a different set of muscles that I have to use, and So, that's one situation. And if you were only asking for one, the others with regards to leaving my work, right? Trying to retire. So,
Want to tell us real quick about it?
well, yeah, it's a similar situation. And, this word codependency that we learn about, the most acceptable definition of it for me is the need to be needed, right? So I've recognized that my role in my gig, in my company that God grew up around me, because, I can hustle some fucking drugs and work with my hands, and this business is just amazing. We employ 30 people now. It started with me in a pickup truck, but I've been in the way, and so as I'm trying to like slip out the back, Jack, and not abandon them, be there. Yet I'm fucking tired of working. What's amazing is that they're all going, see you. We don't need you here. You're in the way. And that awakening, you know, takes a discernment for me to I really look, okay, the action you're about to take, is it helpful to them? Or do I need to back off, let go? And so again, it's been
That's
a solution for me, man. Like I'm a dope. I learn moment by moment. And I love our program because it tracks right along with us. Milan was talking about making decisions, with anger or fear. And if you're in this freaking program, you have to understand we have 2 steps for inventory, right? 4 and 10 to look at myself, like what is going on. Like, I would just go through the day, like not knowing I was so fucking angry. It didn't matter, what was in my way or whatever, right? But we get taught if we pay attention, we get free because I take an inventory and then I have to do a first step on it. Well, why am I angry? Why am I afraid?
surrender, identify, turn it over. Step 1, 2, and 3. There it is.
And 3, man. And but again, you don't do that without doing inventory. Like I have to look at what's going on. And
Gotta see it.
Yeah,
that,
man.
that's part of this.
Beautiful.
So like I need this program more today than I did, 36 freaking years ago. It saved my life and it continues to give a life that I really want, and then in turn it gives a better life to anyone around me.
Yeah. We talked about this earlier, JJ, in an earlier podcast today, me and Milan and then I'll roll to Colton. But you said, Milan, as you start learning things, it's like that pyramid, that tree, because you learn something, but then all these little sprouts come out, and it's like the more we know, the more we don't know, right?
Yeah.
The more we can learn about that specific. When we learn something, we have more. The more we are. How did you say it?
I call it an upside down pyramid.
But
Because it's like I start at one little point of knowledge, and then it's like there's 2, then there's 4, then there's 8, then there's
and it just branches
16.
out.
So it's like anytime I learn anything, I realize I'm twice as dumb as I was the last step.
That's it. As soon as he learns something, he's twice as dumb because he has more to learn now, right?
Yeah.
Because he just learned that new thing. It's crazy. It's wild.
Cool. Very cool.
All right, Mr. Colter. So like, think of a time in your recovery. Obviously, you can go any time in your life of recovery, where you were getting ready. You came to a situation where you had to make a decision, and you wanted to act up, but then you found time where you had to find time of healing and provide a time of healing and to be able to judge that situation, and then how did you come back at it? And how did you tackle that?
Gosh, there's been a lot of times like that, dude. I mean, the first time I got clean, man, I was in this rehab in Mississippi, right? And it was a long ass program, dude. It was like 3 months of inpatient phase 1, then another month of inpatient like phase 2, and then like it basically like including like phase 4, which is where it's almost like sober living. It was like 2 years long, dude. But like I almost left a bunch of times, man. Like like I was living in California at the time, and like the chick I was with was doing bad things, and fucking shit was happening to my house, and I was trying to find a reason to leave all the time, and eventually shit went bad with her, and I just fucking quit, dude. I just quit fighting and just said, "Fuck it, I'm here." And that's when the real change happened, for me. I don't. I wish I could tell you that like there was some kind of fucking like logical or rational like mechanism within me that could get to the point where I reach that line before there's like a serious problem. But I'm not that way. I'm the way that like when shit is completely all the way falling apart and fucked, then I'll decide that I'm cool with not continuing to do whatever it is I've been doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Same way.
I sincerely wish that it wasn't that way, but yeah, and then the good stuff always comes after that, right? Like the good spiritual stuff, the good like the being ready to listen, and you know, this time in my recovery, dude, I feel like I'm mostly there. Like there's still like the things I'm holding on to. I know I'm no longer under illusions about the cost, but I think it's like, it's the being teachable piece, dude. Like I don't think like I get like I don't get very teachable until shit's really bad. So I try to just, what, like I said, it's not always at the pace I want. So not always at the pace Milan wants. It's not always at the pace people love me. But like I don't give up, and I keep trying. And I don't know, man. Like you've known me from the time I started going to meetings this time, so I'd imagine that I'm probably quite a bit. Than the day I came in, so yeah, man, I consider this time right now like my time of growth and healing, I guess, and I haven't slipped, I haven't gotten high, I haven't quit, I haven't gone back to fucking crime and selling drugs. Like I'm still here, doing this, man.
Yeah,
So
it's beautiful,
that's
man. Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
I'm proud of you, brother.
I'm proud of you too, man. I've seen a lot of growth just in the little time that I've known you, man. We've chopped it up a lot, you and I. So a lot of times when you start talking, man, my heart really connects with you, man. One way or another, it's really cool to listen and just watch your growth, man. And grow with you, and you have you as part of my recovery, posse, if you will. All right, so I'm going to answer my question here.
No, I didn't get to answer it.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. God damn, I'm sorry.
I know you were ready,
bro. I'm used to, man. I am like, fuck. Sorry, I'm an addict.
It's all
I'm
good.
An idiot.
It's all good. Do you want to go before me?
My name is Andrew. I'm an addict. No.
Okay.
I have issues.
Hello.
Many things.
I need the question again though, because I'm really good at forgetting.
No.
Okay, so I'll just make up the question.
Ready? So just think of a time in your recovery where a situation came across your table, and you had to provide for that time of healing and discernment, right, to be able to make a decision. And how did you go forward and tackle that? How did you approach it?
So I very recently had something that fits this bill entirely, and it kind of like involves an old friend from before the program, and it really was really confusing to me. I felt that that there had kind of been, some expression of boundaries disregarded, and like just a withdrawal on my part. A withdrawal because I didn't know how to react, and it's kind of like, that saying, like, your mother says, if you don't have something good to say, don't say anything at all. And I was like, I'm not really sure how to talk to this person only sweeping my side of the street, right? Like sometimes it's like you can't say why you're withdrawing unless you are like, you've got a broom at least on their porch. You know, you're like, just mind if I get some of this dust off of here, just to tell you what's going on. Okay, and so I felt, like, and then the person was trying to contact me, and I was a little bit confused, and so in, instead of instead of saying something I know I would have regretted, I did what any good little sponsee does. And actually, the next time I went to my sponsors for us, we're kind of we're reading the 12 by 12 book together, the AA book at this point, because man, that book has got some pearls of fucking wisdom. And like one of my favorite, oh my God, like step 4 and step 7 and 6 in that book are just incredible. And so before we got going, I brought this up, and boom, he's like, okay. He's like, let's inventory this right now. He's like in all the parts, and we went through it. And first off, and I'm like, well, I feel like he deserves, at least commute. He's like, so you're now for sure in your will because you're thinking that he deserves this, so you get to decide. Like right off the bat, dude, my water's still real muddy because I don't even understand really what, like, sometimes I'm not understanding the difference between my will and my higher power's will, like at all. Like, and it was just really great to go through with him. And then in the end, it turned out that my inactivity was probably the right thing to do at that point. And I felt relief, and it has not been driving me crazy. Like, it was really driving me crazy because this was a very close friend, and this was something that I was starting to feel guilt about it. Like even more so than anger or resentment about it, I was feeling guilt. And then now I feel like it's okay for it to lie down and have a rest for a while because I'm not out to change him, and I most assuredly am not open to him changing me back to what I was. And so, like right now, that feels like a good resting place. Like my life is really good, and he's existing without me, and that's okay. And for now, it's way less. It's completely non-damaging for me to not say that stuff. So
Yeah.
it's not my place to say it. So there we go. You're up, Andrew.
Love it, man. So I'll just go into my specific situation that I kind of thought of when we all were talking about it. Obviously the main one, real quick, the main one, when I left treatment, that discernment piece was coming into play before I even knew it. Right, because I chose to start coming to meetings and not go back to that old way of life. Right, I don't know if it was a mortality motivation or what it was. Like, I was practicing discernment then. I had a guide working on me at that point. But where I can really think about where I had to step back and weigh out, and the questions I'm asking myself, right, is like, how will am I acting out of fear, or am I acting out of love? Right, this decision that I'm making, right, because fear and love, there's a lot intermingled with that, right? The fear of losing that person or not being able to be around that person. So, and am I experiencing peace, or am I experiencing anxiety about this decision I'm getting ready to make? Right. I have to lean into one or the other. Right. And if I'm starting to feel more on the anxiety side of that, like I gotta visit that. I got to revisit that. And then just like on the flip side, right, if I'm feeling more peace about that decision as it comes closer to making that decision, then I've got to lean into that too. And I've got to lean into my program. So my brother, so I've got 2 little brothers. I've used a lot with my father was my running partner for a long time. My 2 little brothers, I've used a lot of drugs with them. I'm talking just not good, right? All 4 of us would use. We were like the F troop. And we would just get fuck slam up, right? And so did bad, just a bunch of bad shit that's involved. So now microwave the story to today, where when I went into treatment, I mean, my family and shit knew I was going down pretty fast, right? And I was never doing anything disrespectful to my family per se, or like hurting them, but I was, because I hurt myself and they love me. But I knew they were knee deep in addiction. A lot of them, you know, my uncle, I was using with a lot of people in my family. And then the other people, it was the polar opposite, right? It was like they didn't know anything. And so when I got out of treatment, I had to cut ties like with my brothers and my father, and for no other reason at first, just to stay clean. Because at first you don't, all this shit we're talking about and all these spiritual principles, when you first come into these meetings, just stay clean. That was my only goal, was to stay clean. I was white knuckling minute to minute, but I kept hearing that message. So my ultimate goal is obviously to grow spiritually here, right? But I have to stay clean, right? I'm staying clean must come first. And so my brother so I have my middle brother and my younger brother, who I love that kid so much, man. I love him so much. He just got married last year, and I was supposed to be one of the best men in his wedding. I even talked to him. I even know the woman that he's going to marry. He met her through me from my old job, where like she fell in love with me, you know, and it was not reciprocated. She was a lot younger than I was. You know, finding my brother on Facebook, and they hit it off, and they're getting married. I never would have thought I would have seen my little brother get married. I'm talking, he's got lots of things going on too, and I think he's getting better. And I kind of stay close, but I stay far away enough, right? But I even talked to him and told him I'd go, you know, when it was like a year out, because there's a lot of planning that is involved with a wedding, right? And as it came up, I started really, and as I prayed on it, I was just getting these really uneasy feelings, because I had to travel to go there. I knew all the people that would be there, including my father, and it really just didn't sit well with me, man. And so, I tackled with being a better person from what my mind was telling me, on like the right thing to do is go and push through it. But then the other side was weighing more heavy on like, don't put yourself in that situation, man. Like, don't do it. And I didn't go. I didn't go. And I know I made the right decision now. Looking back at it, I can't, like, shit's happened. Shit in the past, that no amount of anxiety is going to change anything that's happened in the past, including that decision. No, or regret, excuse me. No amount of regret's going to change that shit. So I can't, like, I got to lean into that decision, because look, I'm clean. I'm almost 3 years clean today. So regardless of what happened, I stayed clean. And so did I grow spiritually as a result of it? I think in the long run, yeah. But I hope they would think that, I'm respecting them more by not going than going and like white knuckling through it. And then the chances of something happen, or something happened to me and my father, who I haven't made that true amends with, right? There's a lot of variables that went into why I made that decision. And it says, right, like I said earlier, without providing for a time of that healing and discernment, there will be no hope of living through that moment that I had to go through, without a common shattering to our common life. So so I'm not going to put myself in that situation and risk breaking my shit up, right, or veering me off course.
I felt the same way, man.
It's just I have to be poignant with those decisions, and as I get more clean time and I thaw out a little bit more, those decisions become more comfortable to stay in and voice out, and know that I have expectations for myself too, man, because it's about loving myself too. They would be a lot more pissed off at me if that would have started the ball rolling downhill, where I would have started using again and went out this world, right? Like, so it's about, ultimately staying clean must come first. But like, all that other shit's gonna come. But that was one that it was just a major decision that I still, have uneasy feelings about, and I'm making amends for that. But it's okay, man. It's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. So,
JJ, do you got a question you'd like to ask Colter and everyone on discernment?
On discernment? No, I hadn't put any thought into questions.
No, I
these are the
just
best
mean even
ones.
from the conversation, Talking
Yeah, just a round table question.
One thing from the reading, the spiritual principle of the day it talked about service work, you know, talked about.
It's in the chat. It's in the chat too. If you want to pull up the chat, I'm just letting you know we put it in the chat for everybody if you wanted to revisit that.
Well,
The actual spiritual principle.
Yeah, but I mean, I got it on my phone, and I guess I can condense you guys.
I don't want to mess you up. I'm so sorry.
And read it again. Well, listen, before I forget, whatever definition you read.
I'll read it to you.
Well, if you wouldn't mind sending it to me, because I
Yes.
want it had a whole lot more, it covered a whole lot more ground than this dictionary.
Yes, sir.
So, but I guess, again, I can't form this into a question, or how can I? What the reading pricked in me was, you know, when we're in a service situation, you know, and there's decisions that have to be made, and whether, you know, I'm ramrodding my idea through or whatever. I just, you know, our program for living has been given so much guidance. And our tradition of there's one ultimate authority, and it's a loving God as he expresses himself through our group, you know, to where that's where discernment comes in, is being able to listen to all sides, you know, and not be so clear that I know the way to go, or that some other dude knows the way to go. That when we open it up to one ultimate authority, and I don't know, that the reading reminded me of that. I don't know. Can you make a question out of that? Colter, can you make?
I'm trying to send you that. I'm sorry.
You know, the part that stood out to me about what you were saying was basically like when is it, you know, important to impose your will or not, right?
Right.
Um, or like assert your opinion, I guess, is really what you were saying. And I think we were talking about this the other day, man. And, you know, the more clear I get, the more spiritual I get, the less I have the need to do that. And really, like at this point, and it might even get better from here, but at this point, like for me, the only time I feel like I really have to do that in any capacity is with my kids and like in my intimate relationships. Um, and that never, you know, that didn't used to be the case. Like, but you got to live with the reality that we're in, man. And like that is that. How do I say this spiritually? Well, there's a lot of people like everywhere we go, and like a lot of them are not wise, and a lot of them are not fucking intelligent, and that's just how it is. And like it's not my job. It's not any of our job to, you know, like I don't feel the need to have to like fight with anyone about anything now. Like it's a great freedom. Like, you know what I mean? Like unless you're like directly like attacking or threatening something or someone I love, like I don't need to like explain to you why you're wrong or why I'm right or why what I think is better. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can just do like everyone can just do their thing and be on their little journey, and I can just be on my little journey, and it's way more peaceful like that, you know. Because like whatever their journey's about, that's between them and God. Just like whatever my journey's about, that's between me and God and whoever else he wants in there, right? And it's probably not most of the people talking around me, you know what I mean? When it comes to like the kids, obviously that's trickier because, you know, and that's where I find the most difficulty is back to choosing your battles, right? Like the message and the things I want for my kids, they are important. Like the love that I have for them is real and strong. But like is me saying or not saying, doing or not doing something going to be fucking counterproductive or productive? That's the part where I find the most difficulty. And it's an ongoing process and I'm trying to get better at it every day. But I mean, that's where I try to focus my attention in this arena right now. Luckily, like, I mean, like we see it every day, dude. Like, like when we, in the morning meditation meeting that we go to, right? Like there are certain fucking things that are said and done on a regular basis in there that literally, I guarantee you, 99% of us don't want to deal with. But like most of us, not all of us, but most of us, most of the time, don't feel the need to have to get into it because we're at a point with this recovery where we just don't have to do it, right? Like, and it's better for all of us, right? So I don't know. I guess that's how I feel about that.
Thanks, Colter. I you know, uh, I was debating in my brain. I'm like, do I bring up our morning meeting? And then Colter already just opened the door for it, and it really, for me, I'm a novice in recovery, and my first conflictual point happened with someone with my in-person group back in the spring, and at the time, my sponsor told me to pray for the person for a couple of weeks. And I was amazed at the alleviation and the healing ability that happened with that person. And it was very funny because last night I was at that meeting, and that person that I was praying about literally got up and said, I've had these problems and I've been praying for this person for 2 weeks. And I'm like, I wonder if that was me he was talking about. but whatever, self-centered and all that, but really, one thing I learned from that though was that whatever was going on with him and I in that moment, it was causing disunity. And big picture, it wasn't worth fucking with the group for. Like it really wasn't. It was like whether he was right or I was right on that issue, it was not worth breaking up the band for. Like the band was playing some really good songs. We had a full dance floor. It was not worth stopping the show for just to decide whether I was right or he was right. And and I'm really grateful for that tool of that because that's not the last time that I've used that tool since then. And when it comes to inside the group, I've got some real conflict in my brain about it because I was in a really abusive relationship with a lady, physically and mentally. And I see a lot of people bringing abusive tendencies into their actions and speech inside a group that's supposed to be like somewhere safe for me to go. And I don't feel emotionally safe when that shit's going on. And so it, like literally the people that are bringing that type of behavior into the group, I'm praying for them. I'm praying for them. But, like, unfortunately, I have, like, I think the steps are really great with addiction. I don't think the steps are awesome with mental illnesses. For some it helps, but I don't think it does. And I think that when people are really struggling with mental illnesses, they can mistake that their bipolar or schizophrenia is going to be cleared up by the steps, and it's not necessarily. And you know, I think it maybe could be helped in combination, with therapy and the steps. But who am I to say that? Like I'm not a psychologist, but it's definitely, it's something that my instinctual reaction right off the start was bad discernment in that it wanted me to be able to be right more so than unity. Now I really want to look at it from the unity perspective.
Yeah.
I hope that answered. Andrew?
And that's your pride and ego kind of stepping in there too again a little bit, right? Trying to edge back in and edge that God out again.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I can think of it, my first home group. I came to a position, and not man, it was one of my first dealings with. Look, we're all adults here, right? Um, and
Uh,
men and look, you're either a man or a woman, right? And there are some men's meetings and all women's meetings, right? There's some of that, and people go to all those, right? But a lot of our meetings are there's men and women at a co-ed. And so with that, and every group is different with their rules, being able to chat directly to there's always rules for, group conscience, right? For our meetings. I've been hit with just a lot of situations where I'm just saying the opposite sex will hit me up. And look, I'm all about some recovery. I don't care if you're black, white, yellow, man, woman, in between, they, him, doesn't matter. And my heart's going to connect with you. But then there are people that just people that aren't in these meetings for the right reasons, and will prey on that part of it, right? And then maybe get a phone number, and then when you don't reciprocate maybe a certain type of conversation, it's like, okay, asshole, like, good talk, right? And it's like, regardless, people get their butt hurt, right? And when you're getting clean, maybe for the first time, or even for the third, fourth, fifth time, when you're getting clean and that shit's thawing out, we go through a lot of wild emotions. It's real easy to attach ourselves to a emotion of love, or like if somebody's telling you they love you in a meeting, that you can think you're in a full-blown relationship. That shit's happened to me. Shit's happened to me, man. There's one happening to me right now. And my first home group, I'll just microwave the story into one of those happened where I'm chairing a meeting, and there was a newcomer who had been hitting me up a lot, just texting me and liking my message and all that stuff. And we had text outside of the meeting, and I didn't reciprocate, and her butt got hurt, right? And then she goes to the, one of the main trusted servants, the lady who runs the business meeting or whatever. And there's a discussion behind my back about that, and how I was maybe reaching out to her while I was chairing a meeting and involving like I asked her out on a date. Man, look, all my life, I don't think I've ever asked a girl out on a date with those words, like, you want to go on a date? Like, it was just really funny, right? So there was this panel that was in my old home group. We talk about anonymity and shit, right? They're all must have been talking because there was an all men's panel and then an all women's panel, where they took the all women's panel, took her in, took me to the all men's panel, and just kind of asked me what's going on. And I'm just thinking this thing is a joke, right? And it really snowballed into a really big deal, and kind of like, who has the longer, what, right? Like whose thing is bigger than the other. It was like a power struggle by the end of like, who's right, because I said this and whatever. And then I got kicked out of a chat, even though I made a conscious decision to step back from service from that. That was my kind of decision, was, hey, I'm not going to leave my home group that I love all these people in it. I don't like everything, and I'm going to go to the business meeting chat and say, hey, look, I from here, starting in the next business meeting, I just want y'all to know I'm going to step back from service. I'll still step in when needed. And I got blasted and shit. Like, it was just a problem. And so I actually finally chose to leave that home group. I did a lot of praying on it, and I did a lot of, because they kept me alive for a long time. That home group, you think about how my relationship with NA meeting makers now, JJ,
Yeah.
like, that's how I was with that group.
Yeah.
There are people that come to our meeting that followed me to our group, right? And because I was wronged, right? I was wronged. And I wanted to save the world, right? Captain Save a Soul, right? I was trying to save everybody and not thinking about myself, right? I was willing to go through hell to, like, just be and make everybody happy. People pleasing. What is that? The highest form of dishonesty is people pleasing. You're lying to yourself, man. So I felt myself getting in that space, and I had to vacate, right? I had to leave. My last sponsor was in that home group. It was a big deal for me. Like, it was very emotional for me to leave that home group. Looking back at it now, bro, that was God at work, man. That was my God working on me at that point, right? He knew I needed to be where I needed to be, or JJ wouldn't be sitting here, right? I wouldn't even know you guys. It would just be, my life would have gone differently. My life would not be the way it is today if I wasn't consciously connected to him. Yeah, because I've been running from him for so long. So I listen to him now, man. Look, it's talk about all about push. You know, I love the acronyms, right? Push, push, push stands for pray until something happens, right? Pray until something happens, man. You talked about prayer, and it's so important. When I go to my sponsor with something really, really tough and sticky, the first thing that comes out of his mouth is, "Did you pray for him? And did you pray about it?" And if I prayed before I called him, I usually don't call him. And so when he asked me that, I almost just go, "Sorry, sponsor," and I hang up, because I go, "Fuck, I didn't pray before I called him." Because most of the time I can pray, man. I'll hit that serenity prayer. The other day I hit something and I didn't want to come up with a specific prayer to pray to him. So I prayed the serenity prayer 5 times and I fucking felt better immediately. I felt better immediately because I was given the clarity of mind to go, there's nothing I can do about these circumstances, but give me the strength to do something about what I can, you know, and the courage to do something about what I can, and then just let the rest go. It's a simple switch, man. I can reset the table anytime throughout the day. The serenity prayer is a great way to do it. Just restart that day, man. Just look, it doesn't matter how messy your past is, and even if it's just your daily past, the rest of your day is spotless. Your future is spotless. You can do better. Learn by that mistake. It just shows you're trying, right? So I don't know what I got up on that tangent, but that's kind of my answer for that old home group, and it was special, man. I'm so glad I did though.
And JJ, you want to answer your own comment?
What the freak was my question, bro? I was fishing.
It was about well, first of all, you were talking about like the spearheading an opinion in the service, you know, and you were talking about how the discernment in relation to service.
Well, you know, I it's all connected, and I think I can hear it then in that we're all agreeing to a degree, and I know that for me, the power of prayer, the power of my connection with my higher powers when I'm most discerning, and whether it's in a service meeting, right behind, because that tradition about there's one ultimate authority, I'm not it, but listen to the group. And frankly, I watched my daughter deal with her children in a way I could never, but I think it's employing this principle where she actually asks their opinion, like if they're in a fucking clusterfuck of misbehavior, she has a patience to like ask them their side of the thing. And then somehow she resolves, and I'm mind blown because I just want, to pound the child into the square hole, and so, that's an example. And that Colter sort of had me think about, where these principles that we learn about spiritual in nature, man, is so counterintuitive to my first reaction. That the next tradition but is the one that suggests attraction, not promotion, not pounding that round peg into a square hole, but finding an attractive way to get from A to B. And self doesn't want to hear any of that. Self wants to have an idea, want it to be fucking right. And I can back it all up. It's back to my business at Criterion is the name of my gig. And the people in it where, like I put this thing together. I mean, I learned the skill to begin with. So like, I can't tell you the number of times. And again, I don't know, prayer would have helped me to loosen the freaking straps, from what I believe is right, and this is how you need to do it. So I don't know. There's a wisdom into realizing that if I'm wise enough, to collect the data. Again, this may be inventory, I'm simply asking you to take some inventory and share it with me and see what we can come up with. The power of prayer and the power of me knowing I'm in unity with the God of my understanding is relates to the serenity prayer, because so often I don't get past the very first God grant me serenity, because it's like, serenity? Who'd have thought? It's like, calm the fuck down, just relax.
Yeah.
Let there be peace there.
Yes.
And and then accepting what I can and cannot change may come, but it's that serenity, man, as I know that is a place that is divine. And so there's just so much to learn. And again, I don't know if I'm skirting the question or asking another one.
No,
it's
I
beautiful.
think you did a great job, and that serenity coming with acceptance.
I was gonna
Colter,
just say that the acceptance part in that serenity prayer
I
is
was gonna
amazing.
Colter. Do you got a question you'd like to ask me?
You know what, dude? I'm thinking about this over here in my little mind bubble that I live in, and fucking okay. So when we talk about discernment, like really, like it kind of comes back to priorities, right? And that's another thing I'm not the greatest at. And so, like the only thing that I know, because my dad has been in AA for like 30 something years, he's like hammered this shit into me, is that number one priority has to be sobriety, and because everything else is fucked otherwise. So I know that. That's like that one I've got. So take that one out of the equation. And like what would you say? How do you find the most success or balance like in priority after recovery? And like how would you order, I don't know, like the top 3, 4, 5, whatever you want?
So right now, for me, inside my little bubble of my brain, coming from your question of your little bubble of your brain,
I want to go there.
is
You don't.
for me, I think it's like state of mind. I really am trying to work my program and fight inside my program to keep my state of mind in a state that I'm not a jerk, that I'm rested enough to make better decisions and have a better mindset for the people around me. Like that's probably my next thing. Obviously survival is in there, but um, my mindset involves all the facets though, like of running my program, of exercising, of eating right, of walking my dogs, of going to the meetings, of recording music, doing this podcast, hanging out with my family, rinse, repeat, sleep. You know, I would say that having that day over and over is my priority. Andrew.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna roll into it. My big thing is I hang my hat on remaining humble. I gotta remain humble, man. I gotta remain humble, and I obviously, man, I'm gonna always drive this home. I stay in that love lane. I stay in that love lane because after the staying clean must come first. I've got to have some kind of set way to decipher how I'm going to choose and act the way I act, right? So there's a lot of channels that I have now that these things filter through, right? And the first one, got to be honest. Talk about it. Here we go again. Honesty, right? But then right up next to it, there's your love piece. The love and the humility thing is what I have always hung my hat on. I'm fully aware that humility. I'm not the most important thing on the block, man. It's remaining teachable. A modest or low view of one's importance, right? Like I'm not the most important thing going here. You know, and even when I was in active addiction, now that I can look back at it now, I wasn't the most important thing then, but I thought I was, because it was really me in that survival mode of I didn't want to feel sick and feel like I was going to die. Right? Like I felt like I was going to die. So it didn't matter what decision I made. It was based on me not wanting to feel sick, and then not being able to come across and finally admit, man, I'm an addict. I'm a drug addict. Right? It's that finish, that crossing that finish line that we never get to. It's like running a marathon, right? That we just never finish the marathon because we never get to that marathon where we're like, fuck, we are an addict, and we're an addict. Because once you do that and you take that mask off, then we can grow. But I put myself through a lot of hell trying to get to that line, right? You know, I just put myself through unimaginable circumstances. You know, I could have killed somebody, could have killed myself. You know, I'm fully aware I shouldn't be alive today. And so remaining humble and teachable, and knowing that, like, man, I don't have all the answers, you know, but now that I'm surrounded with people that are like-minded like me and are working on themselves, at least I know I can reach out to a group of individuals that if they don't know, they might know somebody that does. Or at least they're going to point me in the right direction as a unified group, because they love me, man, because I'm pouring out that love and I know I'm getting that love back. And I don't have all those transactional relationships in my life. I don't have to approach somebody with something and have to think about what the transactional phase of this thing is anymore. Does that make sense? Like, I have to approach JJ and be like, all right, I got to ask him to use his truck because I got to move next weekend, but I got to buy him a bag for, you know what I mean? Like, I had to buy you a bag and get have 30 beers there because, like, it's just because because when he calls me, I'm going to help him. Like simple things that I have in my life today that I can ask people for help, and they're not going to look at me like, bro, why the fuck did you call me? You don't have $20 that you owe me from last week. The simple things in life, man. Having my phone ring and not running from that bitch because I know creditors are calling me. I'm actually running towards it because I know it's probably somebody who needs me to be of service, right? That's a whole different way to live, man. Am I right, JJ? Like, actually having a phone that you're not screening phone calls at, and you're like, you're running towards the phone and not away from it, man. I you know, should I have two phones?
I think JJ still used before cell phones. So I don't know if, like, I don't think it was the cell phone in his pocket going.
Got the rotary phone on the wall over there, right?
I'm telling you guys don't know shit until you have to wait in a fucking line at a payphone. You know,
and it's 35 cents. You need exact change.
You know, I mean, it was amazing. More than one time, I'm waiting in my car for the fucking rain to stop so I can use the phone, or there's a line at the payphone.
Like it's an ATM or something.
Oh, yeah. And then there was a bag phone, which you guys don't remember. Like it's so easy to get fucked up, and it's so easy to get clean. I remember being in Baltimore in my early recovery, and I was fucked up in the head, you know, stressed out, whacked, and I needed a meeting. And I went to a payphone, opened up the phone book that's hanging under the phone, looked up Narcotics Anonymous. Cat answered the phone. This is Baltimore, where they had a shit ton of meetings. We had no NA out here at that time. And I told the guy where I was. And like 4 blocks down the street, there was a meeting like in 20 minutes. And I mean, that's amazing. You know, the fact that I was able to do that in a payphone.
How many years clean did you have at that point?
Oh, Lordy, it was only a couple years, you know. But you know, we've grown so much, and you know, the program is like being able to do this, for God's sake, you know. I mean, you know, you call me at the last minute like a dope deal. Hey, man.
We were talking about that. We're like, we're the jerky boys of recovery, where we're like calling people.
Knock.
Like,
who's there? Recovery.
Is your refrigerator running? Go catch it. like, it was really funny, man. It was really, really funny. So
We got water enough. Hey, my boy just got back from the grocery store.
Hey.
I got
So you want to
just say hello to Caden.
Hey, Caden.
Hey, Caden. How you
What's up,
doing,
bud?
brother?
Good to see you, brother.
That's my
Woo.
20.
Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
Hi, glad to be on the podcast. This is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Yeah. We love you.
I
Thank
love
you.
too. I love all
Hell
of you.
yeah, man. Hell yeah. Thank you for being there with our guy JJ, man. Part of his
Yeah, yeah.
family, he's our family, man.
Yeah. He's amazing. He's been here for a
Here it
week.
is. If it doesn't work, then I'm gonna take it back.
Okay, but you have to give me a break here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got about 10 more minutes before I got to roll.
Well, I got a question that I was thinking of, and this is a big question.
Okay.
And we're talking about discernment.
We'll go speed round around.
Yeah, speed round. How do
Okay,
you?
Colter first.
Yeah. How do you, in 20 words or less,
Oh no.
discern? Well, whatever. We got a time.
You're screwed, Andrew.
No,
All right,
but
I'm out. I'm out and done the meeting, guys. I'll see y'all later. I'm done.
No, that was just a joke. But the idea that we have a time.
Yeah.
How do you discern between a decision of self-will or God's will? Is this my will, or is this God's will?
Yeah, see, it's funny because that was almost where I went with the question I was going to ask, but then my ADD got the better of me, and we got to like 4 questions after that. But anyway, so it's funny, man, because I was at a spiritual place at one point where I truly could discern the difference between messages. Like, was it coming from my mind? Was it coming from my body? Was it coming from my spirit? Was it coming from God? There was a time when I could do that. And it was a time of great peace. And it was wonderful. And, this time around, I've been desperately trying to get back to that point again. Like, I want so badly to be in that level, whatever you want to call it, of spiritual ascension. And I'm not, just being really fucking real with you, I'm not right now. Like, I'm definitely not there at this time. And so it's something I strive for, because I do feel like where I'm at today, it is very chaotic, and that's why I look for suggestions. That's why I try to like make myself do things like meditate and those kind of things, because I want to get to that place where I do have that clarity, and I'm not constantly falling into the trap of my own thought spiral. You know what I mean? Because that's the problem I get into, man, is like I'm not even asking myself to discern. Like by the time I realize I'm spiraling in the spiral, like I'm way down in that bitch. You know what I mean? And so I guess my answer to your question is I'm at a starting point of trying to remember to do that right now. Boom, done.
Surrender.
Okay. For me, I'm still sticking with the ye old faithful that my friend young Gabriel told me in the treatment center. He said, when in doubt, pull out your list of spiritual principles. And is this direction of the action in line with the spiritual principles or not? And I find, I feel like it's pretty safe to say you're acting in God's will if you're acting honesty with love, compassion, open-mindedness, willingness, tolerance of others. Like if it fits all of those, and the other direction doesn't, I'm like, I feel like, okay, no brainer for me. So there's my quick one.
Like that. And for me, like it reminds me of a saying. So when I get that spiritual feeling, and it all stemmed from like that original spiritual awakening that I had, knowing that I had that contact with it, and it came so organically and so naturally that I had no choice whether to lean into it or not. It's almost a skill being able to tap into it, but once you and then it's all about that step 1, 2, and 3. Getting through that step 3. Once you finally, surrender, identify, and turn it over. Once I was finally able to turn it over, that was when leaning into these decisions, knowing that they were really based on a spiritual conditioning that I had at the time. It was after working that step 3, right? And what I've tried to realize is like my soul, right? You think about this. My soul has been given its own set of ears to hear the thing that my mind can't understand. Are you with me? So my mind is a complicated thing. My brain is fucked up, but I feel my soul, my soul and my brain are not connected all the time. And so it's almost like a filtration system where I feel different feelings. And when my soul takes over, it's kind of been given a different set of ears, right? It hears things that my mind's hearing everything, and my soul's hearing what I got to hear, right? And my mind's has to hear everything because it's just there. But my soul, it's about how am I, you talk about spiritual conditioning, right? If I'm trained up and buff spiritually, right? Like that message to my soul is going to come in a way where it's going to flow right in, right, JJ? It's going to flow right in and out through my actions. If not, I'm gonna be in conflict in my mind because, like we said, man, I got half my brain always selling the bullshit, the other half's buying it. If my soul is taking that from around that bullshit society up there, like I'm gonna be good, right? And those feelings are I don't have to like pros and cons those feelings. And then I bring it back home with love, man. Like if whatever I'm doing, if I love what I'm doing, it's passion for me, right? It's not a stressful or a work environment kind of thing. Even if it's work that I love, it's not work. You love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, right? They say that a lot. And so with that being said, like I lean into that gut, man, that gut feeling, because man, I've been praying to him and he's been talking back. And as long as he continues to talk back, I'm gonna listen to it, right? But I know my brain, everything my brain hears is not spiritual in nature. We know, right? Our brains want us alone, caught in that neighborhood that we don't know our way out of, and so my soul does a good job at running security on that thing today, right? It checks IDs at the door. It checks IDs at the door, right? Because my mind is gonna be like letting everybody in, all the underage kids. Come on, let's go, mine. And my mind's just gonna let everybody in the back door and all that shit. We're not paying for shots, Then what happens? The cops come and raid the place because we don't have our ABC license. It's just fucking crazy how our minds work. So I gotta lean into those soulful actions and feelings, man. When something hits my soul, I can kind of back up, allow a time for healing and discernment, man, or I'm gonna shatter my shit up, man. And I don't want to do that anymore today. So I've worked too hard on this. Y'all, JJ, you've been praying me in here too long for me to let that shit down. Love you guys, man. This is a nice quick one. I love you guys.
I love you guys too. JJ, you want to do a quick response on that one? And then we'll call it a wrap.
Well, clearly, and I believe that the brain, is physically put in there. It's a problem-solving computer. It like works over time, and I absolutely need to cultivate my heart and my spirit, to take the most advantage of it. I think that, and it's surrender. Listening to Colter, mind, body, spirit, and emotions. I have to surrender. I just have to fucking surrender. And my first sponsor said his sponsor told him that it's a complete surrender on a daily basis, and that's sets the stage.
Spiritual conditioning.
Yeah. And we'll get the reprieve, but it's a spiritual thing. It's not a mind thing. The mind, it should be a tool of our heart.
Yeah. Yep. That keeps occurring to me too. It's like when your spirit is behind the wheel, your mind is your greatest tool. When your mind is behind the wheel, it's
crash course.
It's the one that's imprisoning you. Like you are literally imprisoned and at the mercy of that shit. And it's not ever fun for me. I don't know about you guys, but it's pretty terrible. It's for me.
It's like instead of measuring twice and cutting once, you do the opposite of that, right? Your mind just kind of hacks right into that shit, man. You measure a half a time and then you're cutting away. Your mind just like,
I don't know about your mind.
Do the whole shit,
There's a phrase.
My mind goes quick and it goes wherever it wants, dude. And it's not always the funnest ride. So
you're cutting limbs off and.
There's a phrase in the big book of AA that I fell in love with in describing the disease as as oh shit now. It's an activity that I could no longer postpone or evade. It's my thinking I could not postpone or evade. Yeah, and that's my thinking. You know,
Thinking.
Yeah, I need this spiritual angle. Hey, I really appreciate that you called.
Love you, JJ.
I love you guys.
Hey, thank you, Colter. Love you, bro.
Please help us help others. If you'd like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.